All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Up and In Show. We are here at Cards and Culture on the Purple Couch. I got a couple special guests with me. Thank you, boys, for being here. Cole Freeman and Brenden Hitzman. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Heart has no limit. We are going to talk about your guys' brand that you guys are building, and we were nerding out before we flipped on the mics. So I'm really excited to dive into your guys, things that you guys got going on, building brands, building businesses, how it started, all that stuff. But Cole, you played here at LSU. You played baseball, had a nice career. Went to that 17 World Series final and all that. So maybe you guys can introduce yourself. And Brenden, I just got a chance to meet you for 5 minutes before we flipped on the camera. So why don't you guys give a minute or two of who you guys are and what you guys do?
Yeah, Cole Freeman, played 2 years at JUCO in Delgado in New Orleans before getting a chance to play here at LSU.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, little JUCO route. Then came here my junior year, lost to Coastal Carolina in the Super Regionals. Then came back for my senior year, got another shot, and ended up getting all the way to the finals, and then losing to Florida, that heartbreaking one. Got our revenge last year.
Yeah, that's right. That must have been nice. We can talk about that.
Drafted in the 4th round by the Washington Nationals, played for 6 years before retiring about 6 months ago, and then fully taken on Heart Has No Limit. So
awesome.
Yeah, and Brenden Hitzman. I run Uncommon Ventures with a partner of mine, Joel, out of Nashville. Over the years, we've worked from startup to startup, just building brands, anything from AI tech, SaaS, MarTech, and then health and wellness brands, so a wide variety. But we really focus on developing first the founder into the person that they're required to be to hold on to what they're looking to gain. We talk a lot about how the cost it takes to get something is a lot different than the cost it takes to keep it. And a lot of people just focus on the cost it takes to get somewhere, but they don't build what's required to hold on to it. So we focus a lot on that with the founders we work with, and we want to make sure that they're built into who they're required to be, and then we'll get hands-on in the business and help them scale, bring teams together. So it's been fun. But me and Cole have been boys for God knows how long. We share some crazy stories back in high school. So it's really cool, just like full circle to spend time together like we used to, but also in different environments, working on some really cool stuff. Yeah. Oh my gosh, bro.
Oh no, what is that?
Yeah, nothing.
Not safe for cameras. Okay, no, that's the premium content. That's good. Make sure you guys that's the paywall stuff. That's it. That's great. So, I mean, talk to me a little bit about. So you were always playing ball. You said you played ball in high school. So you guys were on the same teams and stuff like that growing up. All that.
playing against.
Oh, against. So rival high schools or.
Yeah, different high schools. I went to Mandeville. He went to Lakeshore. We just trained a lot together.
Gotcha.
We go hit together, and then his house was always like the party house. So we just hang out on the weekends, like small group stuff. It was fun.
Nice. And then, so you went to Delgado then out of high school, and then did you go to school?
I went to LSU.
You did?
Yeah,
Okay,
I had Tommy John and labrum junior, senior year of high school.
Gotcha.
So it just felt like God was like, all right, time to move on to the next thing.
You went through a little
Baseball's not
frat
it.
boy stage.
Okay.
Yeah, I did go through it, which is
That's all right.
you probably can't tell.
Like we all have our. You gotta fit in somewhere. That's all good.
Yeah. So chase that. I actually went to school for finance, which is funny because
Wow.
I don't deal in that too much. But yeah.
That's awesome. So where does again, I've been in business now for 5-10 years, something like that. You sound very well versed in marketing and business development and that kind of stuff. Where does that background come from? Just learning through experience?
Yeah. So there's a longer story in how I just like progressed through from startup to startup, but I do owe a lot of that to Joel. Like my business partner, his resume is crazy. He's ran a bunch of marketing departments at various different companies, Fortune 500 companies, startups. And so I had my first job was in revenue management at a property management company in Destin. It was like so random. And I just quickly realized this is not me. And when I left that job, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I have no idea where my interests are, but I was like,
How old were you at the time? Sorry.
I was probably like 21, 22.
Yep.
And through like a mutual friend, I got connected with Joel, who was living in Austin. They were like, you should just talk to Joel. So I talked to Joel, and we were like internet friends for like 2 years, probably. Like weird, bro, because the internet's weird, right? You like, especially even with like girls, you'll talk to a girl forever, and then you finally meet her, and it's like, whoa, I feel like we know each other. But that's how it was with Joel.
Yeah.
The first time we hung out, he actually flew me out to Austin. He was moving from Austin to Nashville, and we drove we drove from Austin to Nashville and back.
Oh my God.
And just hung out in the car together.
Real quick that way.
Yeah, but over the years, he like pulled me into a couple projects. The first one was Creatures of Habit, which is a really cool health and wellness brand out of New York. We worked with like Gary Vee on the project, but I literally got pulled in just to run social media for the founder. And then through that ended up becoming the head designer for the apparel. Like, it was just like, it was a bunch of God things.
Yeah.
And I've learned the majority of the things that I've learned through just being obsessive about gaining knowledge, and Joel like mentoring me through a lot of the stuff, specifically in marketing and content. So that's kind of where I've been.
That's really cool. Joe's story. So Joe, I think Joe probably appreciates a lot of that. And
Cool.
How old are you now?
I'm 27.
27. Okay, so he's a little older than you, Joe. But Joe's story was, I opened this in July 2021. He loved the concept, wanted to work here, but I just didn't have any space for him. So I was just kept coming, knocking, right? And I would give him little things. This man started retail, did inventory, rearranged the whole back. Now he is a full-on producer, videographer, marketing. Like, it's crazy. But just like when you said the thirst to learn, I love hearing that stuff, because that's exactly what he is and how he's developed this role here. And it's crazy the skill set that he has now, and it's awesome to see. So
opportunity.
I think acquiring skills early on in your 20s is like one of the most important things you can do, because the more skills you acquire, the more you learn what you hate, and the more you learn what you love, and you'll find these like niche interests of things. Like, okay, I might like marketing, but I'll go in and like I'll build some strategy. Oh, I don't love the strategy, but I like filming. Exactly. Oh, what do I like about filming? And so it like helps you kind of navigate through all these different interest levels.
You figure out probably what you're good at too, right, through that process. And like you said, and then if you can be good at something that you love, then you're like, I hit it. And then if you can find business partners that fill the gaps of the things that you don't love or you're not good at, then you got a home run, right? Like, so that's the fun part.
Exactly.
So Cole, talk to me a little bit about playing baseball and that journey for you growing up, and then the decision to go to junior college. I'm sure you probably had some other offers and things like that. No? All right, talk to me about that. This, is probably a lot of the DNA of the brand and stuff like that, so I want to talk about it.
Yeah, so growing up, obviously being from Louisiana, who doesn't want to play from LSU? And I started realizing at a younger age, I'm like, okay, maybe I've got a shot. I've got some talent, but the biggest thing that started happening was I wasn't growing. And, my dad being 6'3", I'm like, what's going on? So when they started worrying, I started really worrying. And it was around like 10 or 11. We're like, all right, let's go find out like why I'm not shooting up with everybody else. So we ended up going to, it's called an endocrinologist, end up getting tests ran on me. They're taking x-rays of my hand, comparing it to other x-rays of people every like 6 months. It's anywhere from like 6-month-year-olds to like 75-year-olds. Then I had to do a 24-hour test where they drew blood every 30 minutes for 6 hours to check my growth hormones. And so the test ends up coming back. And if you're under the 10 percentile, you would end up qualifying for growth hormones. And I think it ended up costing like $500,000 after everything was done through insurance. That's why you had to fall under the 10 percentile. But I didn't fall. I was at 14. So I couldn't qualify for it, but he also said all that means is you have a growth delay. So he's like, you're 26 months, and that's how they took the x-rays and looked at the growth plates. So like, you're 26 months behind schedule. So whatever age I was body-wise 2 years younger.
Oh my gosh.
And in the sports world, not ideal.
Right.
So at least I knew that I was going to get it at some point. We just didn't really know when. And then got to high school, and my freshman year, 5'1", 97 pounds. I think the biggest thing then was I didn't realize how small I was.
Gotcha.
I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I could play, and I knew I was undersized, but not really that small. But looking at pictures back in high school, I'm like, damn, like I'm a lot smaller than I thought at the time. But so I getting through high school, and I remember my senior year, I asked one of my coaches, I said, do you think I can go to LSU? Straight up said no, bro. Like, they're a different kind of baseball. Like, they're more that guerrilla style baseball. You got to go somewhere that fits your structure. I'm like, why? Like, what do you mean? Like, don't say that. So it just added fuel to the fire for me. And so I ended up getting to the end of high school, and I don't have an offer. And, I went through the whole emotions, crying on the kitchen counter with my parents and all that stuff. And I'm just like, everybody's saying I'm this good, but why am I not having the offers? And, obviously tough time, and end up calling in a favor through one of my friends, my coaches growing up, Chris Westcott. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the name, but he played at Delgado and played some pro ball, and called Coach Joe and was like, hey, kind of give him a shot. I had my grandpa, who was a starter at the fairgrounds, and Coach Joe would go there and race horses and stuff a lot. So I had him talk. So I was pulling all these connections I possibly could to get a shot. And I got a shot. And when I got to Delgado, he was kind of the first coach that said, "Hey, I think you can do it.
Right.
You know, you got a lot of work to do, but
Yeah,
I think," and that was refreshing, obviously, to hearing somebody's got your back like that.
Yep.
And then, 2 years of putting work in there. The funny story is my dad was at an event for Delgado, and one of my teammates' dads walks up to him, and he said, "Hey, I heard LSU's looking at Cole." And he's like, "We hadn't heard anything."
Yeah, he's like,
at
"What?
all.
Where did you hear this?"
Right.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, you didn't know? Don't go tell Cole." And my
Right.
dad's like, "Oh, yeah, no, you're all good. I got to go to the bathroom." He goes to the bathroom, calls me. He's like, "Bro, LSU's looking at you." I'm like,
Don't tell Cole.
"What?" I'm like, he's like, "Yeah, like, yada yada just told me, and like, they're looking at you." I'm like, "Oh, like, I didn't know what to believe. Like, this is really like possibly gonna happen." So 2 months goes on, play summer ball, this stuff, do well, and then next thing you know, Andy Cannizaro hits my line, and I'm like, "Whoa!"
Did you have his number? Was it a text? Tell me that story.
So I didn't have his number.
I know you know exactly where you were.
Oh yeah. So I was walking out of class.
Yes.
And I'm walking up to my car, and it was parked right by the baseball field. And I'm walking up, and I look at my phone, and it's a number, and I'm like, "That's weird." And I had just started to get kind of offers because I think like when other schools find out LSU's looking at you, stuff starts.
Absolutely.
I think I got like 34 letters. Like it was insane how much I went from nothing to everything. Like really,
It's like the
quick.
football scholarships. It's like they hear one person. It's like FOMO. They're like, "All right, we want you to."
Yeah, we'll
it's like, it's crazy.
So I look at him and it's like, "Hey man, this is Andy Cannizaro." And I actually knew Andy.
Text message,
yeah. And I was like, he's like, "Can you give me a call?" And I'm like, I'd already kind of known Andy because, and I believe I'm getting this right, Andy's dad coached my dad in high school. Yeah. And I'd actually had a ball signed by Andy. We went and saw him play in Tampa Bay.
No way, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I had a ball signed by him when I was like 6 years old. He's like, "Hey, can you give me a call?" I'm like, all right, I'm going to figure out if I can press this button or not. So I'm like pacing around my car. Nobody's in the parking lot. I'm like, somebody's looking through a window.
I was just gonna
this
say.
guy's struggling. Like, he's going through it right
So
now.
they're calling like campus security, and they're like,
Right,
"Yo,
they
we
got
don't
this
know
sketch
what's
ball."
going on, but this dude just keeps lapping his car. There's something going on."
So I end up calling him, and he's like, "Hey, man, would love to have you out here and get you on a visit." And I'm just like, I'm shaking my head like
You're
he's
like,
gonna.
"Where's Ashton Kutcher?"
Right.
Like, I'm getting punked
Punked.
here. Yeah, what's going on?
So I'm like, yeah, for sure, all this stuff. So, we
awesome.
end up getting there, and I think it was we played Ole Miss was the game. That's where we stormed the field in October, and so we go on the visit and we do all this stuff. We're getting paraded around. I'm like, this is incredible. Like just seeing the campus, obviously, and being with Coach Maneri, and I remember walking into his office. Me, Cody, and Bryce Adams were the three that were transferring in.
Yeah.
And he's going over our offers. And my thing was I never wanted my parents to pay for school. Like in JUCO, you end up getting a full ride. Everybody gets so there was no coverage there. And then I was like, I know I had tops because I had taken care of my grades, but I was like, I just want enough scholarships to where my parents don't have to pay anything. And we go in the meeting. Coach Maneri's talking to us, and we get to the end of the meeting. He's like, "So look, we don't have anything to offer. Obviously, there only being 11.7 scholarships, all that stuff." He's like, "But you're a preferred walk-on. Like you're gonna have a spot." And I remember being like really mad.
Yeah.
And I think he saw it on my face, and he goes, "What do you think about that?" Now I'm at my dream school, playing for my dream coach. Like there's no place I ever want to go.
Right.
He's like, "So what do you think?" And I was like, "I'm gonna have to think on it."
I
And like,
love
'cause
that.
yeah,
I love it.
I didn't know that.
I'm gonna have to think on it. Coach Mary's like, "Think about what?"
Yeah, dude.
Exactly.
Like, what do you mean? Think about it.
And he's like, "Oh, okay." He's like, "Is there anything you want to talk?" I was like, "No." I was like, "I'm gonna just think on it. I'll talk to my parents, and we'll get back to you."
Is it just you and the other guys there?
No, it was just me and my
okay,
parents
good.
were on his couch right when we walked into
I thought the
loft.
other guys were there, and he was
Yeah.
offering you guys in front of each other.
Oh,
Like,
no,
that's
no,
a
no,
ballsy
no.
move.
So I walk out, and I was the first of the three to go in, and then we walk out, and I'm starting to like talk to my parents, and like Cody goes in, and we're talking. My dad's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" Yeah. I was like, "He didn't offer anything."
Yeah.
He goes, "Where do you want to go to school?" I'm like, "Well, here." He's like, "Go." Like, we want you to go here. Everybody wants you to go here. Go.
Big Sean,
And then
dude.
Cody walks out. I'm like, "How'd it go?" "Oh, I committed." "What do you offer?" "Walk on." Like, Bryce Adams, same thing. Committed. I'm like, "Oh, fuck. do I wait like a day? Like,
You're like playing it cool. Do I text her back or not? Like,
It's so funny.
so I'm like, he walks out, and I'm like, should I just go tell him? And they're like, go tell him. So I walk up, and I'm like, hey, coach, I thought about it. I'm going to come in. I was like, oh, really awesome, all that stuff. So then we ended up going to the game. You know, we stormed the field and all that stuff. And, yeah, the rest was
Did he ever mess with you about that?
No. No. I mean,
how do you talk to him about it?
I talked to him about it one time when I was talking. Obviously, it was my senior year. We had gotten a lot closer and stuff, and I was just like, I was mad. I was really mad. But like, I understood it now because that's how you get an Alex Lang. That's how you get Michael Papirski and all these guys that are major keys to the program because they don't have the tops. And that was one of the major things that my parents harped on me was take care of your grades. Right. And then they'll take care of you. And that's what gave me the opportunity. I mean, I think I only had to cover like books and a couple $1,000 like to go my junior year. And then Maneri being the guy after I turned down the draft ended up giving me a full ride and some and giving Poche some because somebody ended up leaving.
Chills, bro.
But I mean that I think speaks on how Maneri is. Like he understood we turned down money to come chase something else. And he ended up putting me on a full ride to cover everything else I needed. And then even after that, Brody Wofford ended up leaving. He was on scholarship. And he called me and Poche in. He said, hey, he's got X amount of scholarship. I'm going to split it in half and give y'all money.
Sick.
And I'm just like,
That's so unbelievable.
I'll come back. I'll keep coming back.
How many years of eligibility do I have? Like,
Cole's like, I got some learning to do.
No, I mean, that's why I've just got the utmost respect for Coach Maneri because, I mean, he's obviously, like, you know, as hard as it gets and he can put that pressure on you, but as soon as you show that, hey, you're going to show up and you're going to give him everything you got and he can count on you, he's going to give you the world. So
I fucking love that. That's crazy. And you hear that, kids? We wouldn't have seen Cole Freeman in LSU uniform if he didn't get good grades in school. So I'm being dead ass. Like I took pride in that too. Like I think it's important because how you do anything is how you do everything, right? So if you're gonna be a fucking slacker in school and be like, I'm too good for this shit, that shit's gonna happen on the field too, right?
100%.
So you just said it, and like you're a testament. We're here talking about a brand you've built that people have now invested into in their time and all that stuff, but it comes from your DNA as a person. Yeah. You sitting on that couch, even telling Coach Maneri that you had to think about it, he's like, I want this motherfucker. It doesn't matter, like, because you're confident. You know what I'm saying? And no matter where it came from, the love for your parents and their grind for you to get you here, and you're like, hey, I wanted them to not pay. He knew wherever it came from, it didn't matter. He was like, I bet you he was like, this kid's different. Like, and I think that says a lot about you too, and a lot about your parents and where they come from too, and to tell you that, hey, it don't matter. This is your dream. Go live your dream and stuff. So I appreciate you sharing that, man. Like that's a really, really cool story. And just the perspective of like, if I didn't get good grades, I wouldn't have had the opportunity because of tops and stuff.
I mean, it really is. And school is not something that came easy to me. I mean, ended up finding out after I graduated college, my parents dropped this on me 2 weeks later. Like, by the way, you're dyslexic. And I'm like, and I had tested for all this stuff when I was in third grade and reading level was below. And I just was like, maybe I just struggle reading and stuff. And I always spelled words formatically. Yeah. And then they tell me that I was dyslexic after. And I'm like, well, now it makes sense. Like, now I don't feel so dumb because I'm like, I'd get tests back. I'm like, why did I put that? But under that pressure, the words start jumbling up.
That's wild,
But, I mean, I knew I was never testing well. So I was shooting around a 70 on every test. Wow, so I knew I had to turn in all my homework. I had to do all the extra credit. I had to show up for class. Because if I needed help, I needed that teacher to see, hey, you've been in class. So you got to do all the small things. It's all the back end stuff that ends
That's
up
life.
out.
It's life, and it's exactly what I just said, right? Like how you do anything is how you do everything. What did you just say about Maneri? You fucking came in as a preferred walk-on. You busted your ass. You came back and showed dedication and loyalty to him and the team, and he rewarded you with a full scholarship, right? It's exactly the same thing.
Right.
You didn't get the scholarship you wanted, just like you didn't get the grades you wanted on the test, but you came back and you figured out how to do all the work to get what you needed. And that's exactly what happened to you in your career, and like why you've been successful, why you're a successful man, like, and why you're going to be successful with whatever you do. So
it always ends up being like the really small, boring things that you do consistently that get you where you want to go. People think it's like the big decisions and the big leaps, but it's not. It's just like the daily, boring shit that you do at a consistent level.
Over and over and over again.
And I'm sure like maybe you could shed some light into that. Did you learn that from the founders and the mentors and stuff that you've been around? Because a lot of those people, that's exactly what it is. Like, you know, they said that about Saban. He ate the same thing every day, got up at the same time every day. He was like, I'm not spending mental energy. I just do the same thing. I know that I'm doing this. This is who I am.
Yeah, to be honest, this is funny, and I wonder if you've had this experience at all, but I've learned most of what to do by learning how not to do it.
Yes.
Which is like, it sounds not very advantageous, but I think it's actually a stronger way to learn early on in your life and when you're developing like new skills. There's a lot of founders, unfortunately, and that's why we feel like we're called to do what we're doing, where we're like not just focusing on the business, but we're developing the founders, because that's a requirement. And the founders we worked with have not been great. Like, there's just a lot of people that are very selfish, and it's just not the type of individuals that I feel like I'm called to be, and I feel like most people are called to be. And so, like I said, we've actually learned a lot of this stuff by being like, I don't ever want to act like that if I'm a founder of a company.
Exactly.
Or I saw this interaction go on within the organization. I'm like, I don't ever want to treat an employee like that. And like, but this is what I would do differently. And that's the key. Like, when you recognize, because life, you can learn nonstop. Like, driving to Nashville, we can learn stuff about each other just in conversation. And it's like, if I'm paying attention to the things I wouldn't do, that's half the battle. But then I figure out, okay, if I was in that position again, how would I do it differently? And those are like all little like micro learnings that you can have. And I think that's kind of where I've developed the skill set that I have, just those mini micro learnings and just like aggregating them together.
No, I love that. And it's why I started my podcast, because I listened to so many things, and like, I felt like just listening to other people's stories that have started businesses or made mistakes, I'm like, oh, well, I could do this and try this, right, in my journey. And then when I document my journey, right, like I've been doing this for 4 or 5 years. I'm still fucking up. I fucked up this morning. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just constant, but it's part of it. But I think it'll be over time, watching the podcast mature and myself mature as a business owner and things like that. That's exactly what it is.
That's what's so sick about a podcast, though. I don't know if you listen to Modern Wisdom with Chris Williamson. It's like my favorite podcast, but he's been doing it consistently for like 10 years. And he was like party boy in LA, like a party promoter, went on Love Island and was like, I don't know what I'm doing. This is not me. Started a podcast, and now he is one of the biggest podcasts in the world.
I love that.
But the cool thing about a podcast is you can go back 10 years or 4 years, and you can actually physically see the growth that you've made, like by putting in the consistent effort. You can listen to yourself and see all the little like changes that you've made and your dialect. It's really cool.
That's literally why I do my podcast. It's yes for that, but also 10 years from now, 20 years from now, I have kids, I have whatever, right? I'm doing wherever, and I'm like, yo, you know that Hall of Famer Dylan Cruz? He was on my podcast when he was 18. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's like, it's cool to see that, and you can watch him grow, you know. And then I have a list of all these people, 500 people. You know, you guys are in LA doing, you know, who knows? Sold your brand to this, and it's like, yo, we talked when the day after they decided they started their business. Like, that's the kind of shit that I love, and I'm a small part of the journeys, you know, and all that stuff, and telling the journeys and stuff like that. So that's literally why I do the podcast. I think it's the cool shit. And we all are founded in, you started playing baseball at a young age, right? We learned really quick as baseball players that that's a game of failure. And if you're going to succeed, you're going to have to fail first. And that's what life is about too. And that's why I try to tell Joe, Abby, Mikey, all the people that work for me, I'm like, guys, our culture has to be, we are not afraid to fail. We just have to make sure that when we fail, we learn from those mistakes, right? Because that's how you advance forward. We are going to fail. It's going to happen. You know, you walk back to the dugout 2 out of 3 times and you're still a Hall of Famer, right? So you got to learn, and that's what it is. And that's why when you're talking about that from founders, is like those micro wins, and even yourself, you know, like it's like, or micro moments of learning. It could be like, damn, I didn't want to feel that embarrassment anymore. I did that wrong. You know, like I yelled at my team and I felt embarrassed and I felt bad. I don't want to feel that anymore. I'm going to learn a new way to do that, right? And that's growth or whatever. So I love hearing that stuff.
Yeah, the fear of failure, and we can bridge into why we started Heart Has No Limit from that, because that's the foundation of what we're doing. It's like, so many people live their entire life just terrified to fail. And it's debilitating. Like, it keeps you paralyzed from actually taking action. And when you can reposition how you perceive failure, you actually start to chase it. And you get excited about it. Like, I'm going to go after that.
I'm ready to fail. I'm excited to go fail.
I know I'm gonna, and I'm not scared of it.
Right.
Well, because like, fundamentally, you're not really failing unless you quit.
Right.
You're just learning. And so if you realize that the learning is in the failure, it's like, let's fucking chase that, bro. Let's go after it. And we can share like kind of the premise of the brand, where we've studied a lot, especially with like my mentor and my business partner and I. We study a lot of historical figures. And when you study these historical figures, one thing that's cool about it is it brings relativity into your life, right? Like you might be going through some tough stuff, but if you look at a Winston Churchill who like lost all 4 of his kids, or Abraham Lincoln who lost 29 years of elections before he won the presidency, like over and over and over and over, a Truett Cathy or Viktor Frankl who was in concentration camps, like these people went through some horrible things, and it brings relativity.
Yeah.
The other thing it does is you realize that without the struggle and the opposition that they walk through, they wouldn't be the person that we read about. Like we read about them because of what they walk through, because it gave them authority over the things that they talk about. You don't have authority over what you don't walk through. So that's one side of the coin. And then we look at these inner city communities that are just surrounded with chaos nonstop, and it's horrific. And these kids have no shot. There's gunshots everywhere when they walk out of their house. Their friends are getting killed. It's like nonstop. And a lot of these foundations and nonprofits and brands will stand on their high horse with their flag and be like, we need to take this to government. We need to change these socioeconomical structures because we're oppressing them. And it's like, cool, but what are you actually doing, bro? You're just waving a flag. You're not actually doing anything for change.
Right.
That most likely is not going to change. Like that's a massive problem to solve, and not saying we shouldn't keep chasing that. But what we can do is we can go directly into the communities and change the way they think, and help them realize that if we can get into their brains and teach them how to think like some of the greats in history, we could change the world.
Yep.
Because if they realize that because they're going through so much shit, they actually have authority, if they have the right perspective, to change the world because of those exact things. Like that's the same pressures that a Truett Cathy or a Viktor Frankl walk through. And we already recognize that that's the reason they've actually changed the world and they've impacted so many lives. So we have millions of people living in those impoverished communities going through shit that if we can fix the way they think, like that's a massive domino effect. And so we want to democratize, because you brought up earlier when you said Cole's parents. Yeah. That's something we realized, his access to parents and mentors and coaches and online learnings and all these things that helped him learn how to change his perspective when he fails at the plate.
Correct.
A lot of these kids that need it most, they don't have access to that. So we want to democratize those exact tools, those things that we've learned, the curriculum, the courses and all that, and inject it to where it really needs to be. And that's why we're here.
I mean, amazing. Like, dude, I'm like, I think I could listen to this dude talk like forever. Like, no, seriously, and how old did you said you're 27?
27.
To have that perspective at your age is really tremendous, and it's going to be leaders like yourself that actually make lasting change, like for real. Because you're right, a lot of people write checks, they don't know where it goes. They say some things, and I donated here, and they make a social post, right? Yeah. And it feels good for them, and they feel like they did their job. But being on the ground and doing things and changing how people think is the way to do things. Yeah. That's why when I invested in the Positive Vibe movement, it wasn't about the hats and t-shirts. That was a representation of the movement that we were doing. And that's what I always appreciated about Matt and what brought him and I together. Him and I were on a podcast together, and I was like, bro, I fucking feel your DNA. I feel what you want to do. I want to be a part of that. Yeah. I value mental health a lot. And he had all these visions, and I was like, I want to help you make those things come true. We would go to local schools here, and we would go read to the kids and just talk to them about it and be like, you're in control of the way you think. That's what positive vibes means, right? Like, and we would give them perspectives. Hey, when this happens, when you get a bad grade on your test, and you teach them the skills to say, you can get mad and angry and red and embarrassed, or you can say, okay, what did I do wrong? And you can ask your teacher, right? And you're giving them life skills to be like, that's positivity. That's a good vibe, right? And you teach it in their language, but that's exactly what you guys are doing. And that's, to me, at your guys' age, that you guys understand the privilege that you guys have had, the opportunities you guys have had, and you want to give it back to people that haven't even had that opportunity is pretty amazing. So kudos to you guys. Talk to me a little bit how you guys start that, how you guys actually start doing it, because I know some things have changed from when you started it. So maybe give me a brief catch me up on that, and then we can dive into some of the actual work.
Yeah. So like we spoke on a little bit earlier, as soon as I graduated, turned it into a brand. It was just me and my mom, piecing it together. And
how did it come together? So this was 2017?
This was 2017, yeah. Okay. So when I came back and Coach Maneri asked me to wear number 8, Jeff Marks ended up hitting me up and was like, hey, I want to do a story on it, and it's going to be 8 parts. I'm like, all right, cool. So we hit up walk-ons. We got there for like 3 or 4 hours, and as we're getting to the end of it, I tell him about my tattoo. And he's like, what's it say? And I was like, heart has no limit. And he was like, and so I ran him through the shorter story at that point. And he was like, scrap it. This is what the whole story is going to be about.
Oh my
I'm
God,
like,
I love that.
Oh, all right. Like, okay.
Here we go, another 3 hours.
So we sit down.
Jeff Marks, he's a talk. I love it. He's the man.
He's unreal.
He's got great stories.
He's one of a kind guy. So we sit down I think we probably had 3 or 4 meetings of 3 to 4 hours. I mean, and he would call them like he wanted all the little nuggets, he'd always say. And so we got it all out, and then the story comes out, and I start walking outside of games, and kids are making Heart Has No Limit shirts and HHNL on their gloves, and like, can you sign? And I'm like, what is going on? Like, and I always wanted a clothing brand, but like, I wasn't expecting it to happen like this, or Heart Has No Limit. Like, just how it happened was so organically. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to end up making a brand out of this when we're finished up. Made like 50 or 100 T-shirts, brought them up to the World Series, was handing them out to all the fans that were there. I would have needed probably like 200,000 if we would freaking hand them out. But so did all that. And then after we lost, I started the brand up, and then we just started sharing kind of stories of other people. Because I got a lot of people reaching out to me about, your story inspired me to do this and do that. And I'm like, what if I can grab other people's stories that maybe their story can resonate with somebody that sees this content more, and that story can help them? Because, the bottom line, it's not about my story or my brand. It's about motivating somebody to go out there and achieve their dreams. And I got some really good feedback on that. And the best one that I've gotten by far was, and it was kind of one of the first ones I got, was this girl named Merritt. She lived out in Texas, and she was 5 years old, and just in the back of her parents' car, they were driving somewhere, and a drunk driver ended up hitting her, and she ended up becoming a paraplegic. And she saw my story when we were in the World Series, and she's like, I saw your story, and you went out there and proved so many people wrong, and every day I wake up and go to therapy, I think about how many people you prove wrong, and that I can show them that I can compete. And I was in rehab because I got sent there right after I got drafted for my wrist. And I was sitting out by the pool, and I'm reading the message. I just got tears coming out of my eyes. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I was just trying to play baseball. Right, the cards you were dealt were totally different from what I'm going through. Like, gosh. You're an inspiration. Yeah. And that's why I was like, we're just going to grab stories, and we're going to put them out there. We're going to highlight these people for being who they are and going out there. And so, after we did that, and probably about the last 2 years of pro ball, I just wasn't putting out a lot, just because, like I said, me and my mom didn't really know what to do. Trying to figure out my baseball life, and then I retired, and then that's when I ended up calling him. I flew straight out to Arizona, stayed out there for about a month with my sister, and then came back. And I'm just trying to think, like, what's next? The feeling, like, I was waking up, and and not in like a sad, pitiful way, just like, what was my purpose today? It was always, I got to go lift, I got to go throw, I got to go hit, it's an off day, I got to go do something. But I was waking up, and I had nothing I was working towards. And I'm like, I've got to figure something out. So I'm riding across the causeway, and my sun's setting down, perfect little moon. I'm like, I'm going to just call one of my boys, see what's up. Obviously, he's all up into the fashion. And I'm like, bro, you want to just do a shirt with me? Like, I just want to get Heart Has No Limit rolling again. And he's like, yeah. And then he asked me, he's like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea. And I was like, I do want to do a nonprofit for the brand. But I don't know what that entails. I was under the assumption that $1 million came in, $1 million went out. And I'm like, that sounds sick. Like, I get $1 million, move it and help people with $1 million. Like, and he's like, well, my business partner, Joel, who we spoke on a little earlier, he said he's involved in a bunch of nonprofits and handled them before. He's like, why don't we get on a call? I'm like, all right, cool. So we shoot and have a meeting on Monday. We had about an hour meeting-ish, and leave the meeting. I'm like, damn, like, we can do this. But one of the reasons why I got to the point where I wanted to exit baseball was I felt like I was just playing to play at that point, and I had played enough baseball at that time that I was comfortable with. I just wanted to be reaching that goal of being called a big leaguer. That was my last box I needed to check. And when I saw kind of like what the work was going to take to get back out of any ball, back to an org team, then be relevant, then work up, I was like, I didn't know if I had that in me anymore, and I was just ready for that next step. I mean, shoot, I've been doing baseball for 24 years, and I was ready to make some money too. And I'm like, well, if I go this route, I'm not really making money for a while, so this kind of defeats the purpose of why I'm, you know, hanging up the cleats. But I'm like, the more and more I kept thinking on it, I'm like, I feel like if I do the right thing, and this is how I've always been my entire life, if I handle myself in the right way and I do the right thing, that God's going to put the right things in front of me. And I think that's why I got the opportunity at LSU, because I took care of all this stuff. I treated people the right way. I do my absolute best of what I think he wants from me. And I'm like, you know what? Screw it. Let's just do the nonprofit. God will put the right people in front of me for me to make the money after. But I know if I go and try and just make some money at some other job right now, I'm going to have this in the back of my mind. Like, what if? Why not? I could have helped these people. And so, yeah, I was like, yo, let's do it. And the last 4 months we had been building out the nonprofit with Brennan and Joel. I mean, dudes are absolute rock stars. And we've been building it all out. And then, we go up to Nashville 2 weekends ago to meet with one of our business partners that we were going to get his curriculum. That was going to be one of our initiatives with Hard
Still
as
is.
a Limit. Well,
Still
yeah,
is.
but just a little different
Yeah.
angle now. And we go into his office and at his house, and we're just talking for.
Well, Cole, set the scene a little bit. Like this guy, he's not as well known online, but
yeah, he knows
This is the guy
realm of
in Nashville, right?
yeah, Taylor.
Yeah.
So
His
not
name's
Joel.
give him the background.
right. His name's
on who
Taylor
he is.
Welch, and
Okay.
I'll share his profile with you because he's changed my life. He's changed so many of our lives. But sitting in the room talking about a business with him is no different than sitting in the room with Alex Ramosi. Like it's no different. Like he has the same business acumen as someone like Alex Ramosi. They're friends. Like we were talking the other day with him, and he's like name dropping Alex, like which is crazy.
Yeah.
But we're in this guy's home office. His team shows up. He's got his head of content. He's got the girl who runs curriculum. So it's like a big deal. And we're just chilling. He's the coolest dude. But I just wanted to like set the scene that it's like, this is a like legit
is a
meeting.
huge-
we were kind of
yeah,
like nervous and it's
yeah.
snowy. And I'm
I
like,
would imagine.
Yeah.
I've never been a part of.
And that's what I was going to say. You're like, I don't know what I'm walking into at
and
all.
like
yeah.
we've personally invested a lot of money to even be in that room in the first place.
True.
So it's cool to see the fruits of your labor in that extent.
Yeah.
But we're sitting in this room and then Cole can
Yeah, so we go in the room, and like I am so out of my element for all this stuff. Like I'm a first time in rookie ball, like
Yeah.
figuring
There's
it
so
all
many
out.
books on the wall.
Yeah.
Cole's like, what is that?
There's no way
Freaking
somebody's
me
read
out.
all those.
Those got pages in them. Like,
Words on everyone, like not pictures, right? Yeah.
right. So we get in there and we sit down, we start talking. I just have no idea where this meeting is going to go, how it's going to go, and he had already accepted 3 of our offers that we had kind of wrote up, and the third offer being the most exciting for us.
the most integrated with his team.
Yeah.
Where like we fully
Content.
collaborate on the content. He's actually giving us access to, he has this group called Arena, and that's where we study the historical figures. And he puts all this curriculum together with his team, his research team and stuff. It's really amazing. We have calls every Monday. But we actually now have full access to his entire content catalog and all of his curriculum.
Wow.
And we're working with his research team to redevelop all that content so that it's easier for kids to understand. So we'll actually
that's a big
rebuild it
word.
all
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
same
Easier.
principles so we can inject it into schools
Very
and like juvenile detention facilities.
Yeah.
But
That's amazing.
So we go in and we sit down, we're having the meeting, and it's going great. We're just going through, what we're expecting from each other, what we're trying to do, where we're trying to go, his curriculum. And we get like 55 minutes into like an hour and 15-minute meeting. And he goes, but why a nonprofit? And I turn and I look at him. I'm like, we've only been asked this question one time from one of a highly respected mentor that had gone and done nonprofits and stuff like that before. And when he asked us, I was like, what do you mean? I want to help people. And he's like, yeah, but I think you can help people more if it's a for-profit brand. And I'm like, well, like, why?
Yeah.
And he's like, because that gets people excited and you have authority. And I thought about the authority part after, and I'll touch on that. But he's like, you see how my energy changed? He's like, as soon as we started talking about for-profit brand, it's exciting. It's a clothing brand. He's like, that gets kids excited. He's like, there's a clothing brand that's got all this nice swag and all this stuff. Does that excite somebody or a kid? Or does a nonprofit excite them? I'm like,
Yeah.
well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
and just
I
the
definitely-
perception of a clothing brand, right? That is for profit versus one that's nonprofit. You just kind of associate, oh, it's a T-shirt I got from a nonprofit, right?
Right. So we end up thinking on the authority part, but he gives this example, and this example is, okay, if I'm holding up a street sign and it says, hey, come with me and I'll teach you how to restructure your beliefs, live the life you want to live,
Delete the fear
delete
of
the
failure.
feel of failure, all this stuff. And then there's a guy right next to him and he's got the same sign, and underneath it says, and make money and get your family out of the hood.
Forever and never.
Forever,
go back.
yeah. That kid's gonna choose that one, right? And I was like, well, that just shows that he's got authority. And then I started thinking, why am I in this room? And I'm like, because he's showed that he's done it. He has authority over me because I want what he's got. Right. He's helped people. He showed that he can build a business. And in the sense, he was just like, you've got to show that you can do it. And then once you show that you can do it, now you've got that authority over them that like, hey, come let me show you. This is how it worked. Look, I showed you. This is the whole plan. This is how it's going to play out. And yeah, I mean, blew our minds, honestly. Like we walked out and
So
we
you're
were
like, oh, our whole business is different.
they finished the website 4 days before that meeting. We restructured the pitch. Everything was finally laid out.
Dense website, like dense.
Dense. It's still up there right now.
Yeah.
I mean, phenomenal. And then he comes in and just, in 45 minutes, scraps it all. And we were just like, I mean, not that it definitely wasn't a waste of time because we learned all of it and stuff. And we have the foundation side of it that is going to fund the data and still the other initiatives that we have. So nothing changes on that part. It's just now we've got to build the second part of the business.
Right. Which is much harder.
Yeah. And then now not only we have to, we have to find angel investors and do all this stuff. And then we're still trying to find donors. So it's just more on our plate, but for a good reason.
Yeah. And it gives you that purpose every single day. That why you're getting up every day.
Yeah. So it's been a wild week and a half. That's for
sure.
sure.
I would imagine. So we just talked about the fear of failure and fear in general, right? I would imagine as you guys are sitting there, there's a lot of fear coursing through your body, like what the fuck? We just did all this work. What? Like, how do we restart? What have you guys taken from what you've learned in that fear of failure and applying it and growth, and what perspective do you guys have after hearing all that and kind of taking the new approach?
I mean, I was excited for it. I mean, you can touch on it.
It's different for me because this is like so on brand with my life. Like the amount of 360s and 180s that I've walked through. I'm just like, yeah, of course this happens. Like, and something we share a lot of and something we want to teach these kids is like, the larger the opposition and the friction that you face in your life, the larger the calling is. Like, I strongly believe that. I think the people with the biggest callings have the biggest opposition that they face early on because God's preparing them for what they're going to walk into. We have a mentor that talks about the backside of the blessing that's already yours. God won't gift you with the blessing if you're not prepared for the backside of it, which the backside is all the stuff that comes along that you don't even expect. When you get the money, when you get that stature, when you grow this big business, it's not all fun stuff, dude. Like, there's a lot of shit that you have to deal with when you get to that level. And so God's really preparing you through the struggle. And so whenever something like this happens, I'm like, okay, cool. We're just still being prepared. We're still being like, that's something like a mantra I have to tell myself. Like, I'm just being prepared. I'm just being prepared. So when we walked out of that, I'm like, yeah, duh. Like, and Joel's on the same page. We're like, yeah, duh.
We were
like,
literally laughing, walking out of his door. We're just looking at each other. We're just like, of course. Like, but like he's saying, in a great way, like, all right, hey, next step, let's go. Like, this is just
one foot in front of the other. And Joel and I have raised probably cumulatively 20 million over the course of the last couple of years with different startups. So like, even though we understand nonprofit land, getting donors is a lot different than raising a fund, like for investors. And so this is much more like even in our wheelhouse. So we're just like, all right, let's build our 27th deck, like pitch deck. Like, it's kind of just like, all right, now we get to go into what we're like so familiar doing. And we've built some really amazing decks with some cool brands in the past with like Gary Vee and some of these big names. So it's like we get to pull all that stuff together and repurpose it. So it's really fun. It's just now we have hard costs, with the nonprofit, there's no hard cost. It's just team costs to build what we're building.
Yeah.
Now we have like physical hard costs because we have to work with manufacturers overseas and we have to build physical product and go through the sample process and all that. So now it's like we actually do need money to help out.
Absolutely.
So it's a little different perspective, but it's really exciting. And I think the first time we got asked that question, we were sitting down with a guy who's like 72, 73. It's one of my really close friends' dads, and he's been in banking. He's very, very successful. And so I knew that there was something there when he was like, why a nonprofit? I think you should go for profit and then start the foundation off the back end of that. But he didn't position it like Taylor did.
His verbiage.
Gotcha.
It was a lot different and it didn't click. But when we talked through this like thing where it's like, okay, 12, 13-year-old kid in inner city New Orleans walking down the street sees these two signs and it's like, okay, which one are they going to go towards? They're going to go towards the one that says, I'm going to teach you all these things and teach you how to get rich and teach you how to get your entire family out the hood and never go back. And then we talk about that authority thing. Who has more authority in that situation? A nonprofit or a really cool brand that they see all their favorite athletes wearing.
Right.
So it's like, that's a hard route, bro. Like we have to build a massive audience. And Taylor literally said, this is funny. Cole got amped. He's like,
It was just weird.
he's like, all you guys need to do is get Cole as famous as possible and we'll all get rich.
Yeah, I've never heard that as a business plan. He like sits up and we actually had to find out the meeting was recorded and I went through a look and he like sits up and he's like, our job is to get him famous. If we get him famous, then we can do our job. And I'm just like, this is a business plan?
Wild,
Like, but
it is.
It makes sense.
And it's
like,
you have marketability, you have a story, right? And it's all about storytelling, and then permeating through that story are the lessons, are the good, are the products, right? And all that stuff. So it makes sense from a funnel standpoint,
Right.
you know, and being vertically integrated and stuff.
yeah. I mean, and like you were speaking on with the failure part, I don't think we even look at it as failing anymore.
Right.
I think we just look at it as like, okay, like we'll take what we can grab from that and then we go next. At no point did I walk out of that meeting and think failure at one point.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things that I've had to learn over the years and stuff, and that we're trying to, you know, promote to other kids, that it's all perception. You can make a situation as bad as you want, or it cannot be as bad as you want. It's all in how you look. Like, okay, you've ordered some clothes and you're so excited and you get these clothes on Friday. Well, something happened, shipping messed up, and now it's not till next Friday. It's like that could ruin your Friday right there. I can't wear it on the weekend to go out. I was going to try to impress this girl.
Endless stories,
Or you can just be like, okay, well, maybe I can wear it next weekend. And maybe I'll meet that same girl out there. And it's like, that same situation caused you so much stress, or it just was nothing.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it's just flipping that mindset a little bit and just being open to learning new things.
The power of reframing, I think
it's
like
incredible.
Ed Milet talks about that being the single most important skill you can learn, and I strongly agree with that, because there's so many things that go throughout the day like that. Like that's a perfect example, because the amount of stuff that happens throughout the day that's just annoying.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, bro, people who have road rage, I'm like, you need help, bro.
Yeah.
Like if you're mad because you're in like traffic.
The amount of people that use the word triggered for being annoyed, and you're like, oh, you mean you're annoyed right now? Like that's what you mean?
The trigger word triggers me.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, But that's what it's all about perception, right? That's what we're talking about, and that's where maybe I use the wrong word of failure, but like as you're sitting there and Taylor's telling you guys this stuff of restructuring, or 55 minutes into an hour 15 meeting. Sure, there's fear coursing through your body of like, how do we do this? What do we do now? How do we do it? What's the first step, right? So it's...
Well, that's why I like to have him, because his perspective in that situation, he probably felt that like bubbling, and I can like sense it, but we also like us working together. That's why it's so fun. Because Cole is like, Cole's ability to just be like, head down, let's go, is so inspiring, because that's how we are, but most people aren't like that. And so it's like, I know no matter what happens, Cole's just like, all right, next step, next step, next step, next step. Exactly. And so that's really exciting. And then going into like the practicality of what next, we're looking at an August drop for our first drop. We'll probably do like 5 to 7 pieces.
Nice.
We're looking at bringing on a designer. I've designed in the past, but like my time investment in the brand and on the strategy side, also with what Joel and I are building, is better suited for that than like day-to-day design. It's a grueling process. Like because we're doing all cut and sew, all custom stuff.
Wow.
No blanks, nothing.
Oh my God.
And so we're sourcing all the material from scratch, like working with manufacturers all over the world. Like it's a long process.
Yeah.
So when I first did my first clothing line with Creatures of Habit, like I told you earlier, I started just managing his social media, and I ended up voicing my opinion. He's like, I think I want to do merch. I was like, what if we don't do merch? What if we do a like cut and sew apparel line?
Yeah.
Like no other supplement company does that.
Right.
And he's from the Bronx, so he's like, yeah, let's do it. Like I love fashion. That's sick. He's like, here you go, do it. And I never touched
Just
clothes.
gave you
I
a
just
blow
like
up.
clothes.
You were like, it was my idea. I didn't mean I know how to do it.
Yeah,
Dude. Like,
yeah.
what do you mean?
But like that experience for me, looking back, as stressful as it was such a beautiful thing. I learned a new skill. I had so much fun. I made clothes that I can wear,
Exactly,
like so
yeah.
cool. And now we're looking at, we can either go one route.
You saw it? Yeah. That was a big stretch right there.
We could do one route where it's like we hire someone with the direct experience in fashion school that knows how to do technical design, or we can hire someone who's obsessed with fashion and has never done it before and is looking for that opportunity. And that just feels so on brand for us.
That's awesome.
give
So
them the
like
opportunity.
developing people, like that's what Joel and I want to do. We want to develop people in all the organizations that we bring together. And there's a balance between hiring A players, because you need A players, but also developing people who've never done it before. And that beautiful balance, I think, is what'll make it special.
Yeah, it's almost like you're a GM of a team, right? Deciding do you want to trade or
exactly.
acquire, or do you want to
we
draft?
That's a great,
talk.
you need rookies, you
Yeah.
need the veterans, you
need
need
a
both
nice
of them,
blend.
and those two guys together, that blend is what makes
Yeah,
teams.
but some
magic.
teams are really successful because they draft and develop. Other teams buy and try to win with that. So
Yeah,
That's
that's,
really
what we had a meeting before we went up to Caleb Gilbert's camp that I was telling you about this past weekend. I mean, that was one of the first meetings that we had, just me and him having about the operations.
Yeah.
And I literally told him, I was like, dude, I'm gonna run this like a baseball team. That's the only thing I've been around. Like, we need our main guys, we need our bullpen, we need our closers. You
Yeah.
know, we need guys that are gonna mesh is the biggest thing. That are gonna be excited to work with each other. That in a stressful situation, they're not going to lash out. I think those are major parts into making the fluidity of the business just go through. And
absolutely.
So yeah.
No, the DNA and the culture like is huge, and I think they're probably sick of me making sports references all the time. I'm like, this is all I know. Like, I didn't work at a job, like I didn't do whatever, and then decided to start my own business. I'm like, I was coached. I had 5 managers, coaches that were my coaches, and like you said, you pull and you pick things. Like, all right, I liked what Coach Maneri did there. I liked what my first manager did here. Hated this manager and when he did this. So I'm going to try to blend all these different things together, you know, but that's all we know.
I could say one thing too with them that I've had to even like tell myself throughout the process is coachability. Obviously, you've got to be coachable. Well, like we were talking about, this is my first time doing anything like this.
Yeah.
They've been there and they've done that. Now, I'm the owner of the brand, but I've got to lean on them for he had to show me how to do an email signature. I didn't know how to do it.
Bro, I remember
signature.
because you never had to.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
I said, bro, how do I get my cool name?
How do I link my Instagram in the bottom, dude? Make it.
I said, how do I get my name and stuff at the bottom of the email?
You see all these emails, you're like, how do I make mine look
right?
like
I'm like,
that?
dude, that dude's got like a logo and stuff. I'm on the logo. And he's like, dude, your email signature? I'm like, what is that?
Yeah,
and he's
I
like,
have no
dude,
idea.
go in, do this. And I'm like, oh, sick. And he's laughing. I'm like, bro, I'm gonna be honest. You got to teach me from the bottom up. But I've had to lean on them so much with Brenden and Joel, and I can't thank them enough, honestly, because it's been enjoyable. Obviously, frustrating at times. That's part of it. But I mean, they've been awesome with me. They've worked with me. They've explained situations that I haven't understood too much. So it's cool because I'm kind of going through the process too. The reason why I wanted to start the brand is because I recognized after ball, dude, I worked my ass off, but I had all the right people, the right situations around me. I had the best parents in the world that financially supported me no matter what case it was, that they were going to put me and my sister first. They put me around the right people. I got the good education. I had all these things to get the opportunity that I wanted. And the whole reason I want the brand is for people to get an opportunity. Now, what you do with that opportunity, that's up to you.
Yeah.
But that was always the thing I said. I just need the opportunity to show them I can do it. That's all I need. I want the opportunity. So I want to give every kid possible the opportunity of their dream to go out there and put their best foot forward. If that's mentorships, it's that helping them financially, it's whatever they possibly need to learn and grow and put their best foot forward, and to hopefully make them into strong athletes, strong business people, to when they come back, they want to invest back into it and say, hey, these people changed my life, and we just keep that party going and
Yeah,
change
that's
as
the
many people's
movement.
lives as possible.
Keep the movement.
That's the movement.
Yep. And your journey as a founder too, I'm sure you've probably gone on your personal journey as well, just in business and things you've done if you've been doing these things. But you're probably going to embark on some stuff just from what I can say that I experienced, right? Opening up F45, little things that you've never done before, like email, but working with women, little things like, just that but it took my head trainer to sit me down to say, hey, Anthony, I know you've never worked with women before, so this is a really hard conversation for me to have, but I respected her so much.
Cool.
And I love, she's an amazing employee and all that. And she was like, I know I always complain about pictures and like blah, 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 and my, face or looking. She was like, but women deal with stuff that men don't deal with, for a week out of the month. And
stuff you'd never
and and I was like, oh my God, Carrie, I'm so, because like I would always be like, hey guys, we're doing pictures today, and she would like get,
freak out.
Yeah, I'm like, I need some marketing content, and she'd be like, oh, and I didn't understand. I'm like, why do you get so freaked out? And like, I'm like, just do it. And then one day she sat me down, she was like, I just want to let you know, like maybe you've never known this. I'm like, oh my God.
That's actually so sick. She had that conversation.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, and those little things, right, had taught me so much. Just that moment of like, oh my God, I've never worked with women. I never thought about that. I never understood that. Was like, holy shit, I got to rethink about the way I do everything, So those types of, and I can't tell you how many times I ask them for feedback. What could I do better? How can I do it? Because I know how I come off sometimes and things like that. Yeah. So but it's going to be humbling.
And there's an identity shift that's required. And I think like even working with Cole has actually launched this whole like sub brand that we're thinking about running with Joel and I, where we do what we do, like I said, under the Ventures Project, but with current or ex-professional athletes who are transitioning out of sport and into launching businesses, because that's a huge gap, bro. And you look at the statistics, it's like 60% are divorced and broke within 5 years. That's insane.
If you ever start that, I would love to be a part of it, because even when we were sitting here just talking to you, I have a ton of athletes on my podcast, right? And so I always, the ones that are still playing, I always ask what's happening next, and most of them don't know. Most of the guys and girls that are here are usually like trying to exactly where you're at. What's next? I'm trying, right? And it's a really weird gap. When I first started my podcast, it was called the Up and In Show, because I wanted it to be more than just the sports. I wanted to peel back all the layers. I wanted to learn the stories that made you successful and failures, But the creative services team that I sat down with to build the brand was almost like, dude, you're missing, like, you have something here. You speak well about mental health. You're vulnerable. You're open. You have an ability to be masculine, like all this stuff, right? You should do like what's next, and only interview athletes right after they retire and talk about the mental health of like my new identity. And I was like, dude, there's so much to unpack there. And I wanted to be fluid with my podcast, but I was like, dude, that gap.
We should talk about it. That'd be fun.
That would be really something I'd be passionate about, because I see it. And I feel like since I've started things, a lot of guys call me up and they're like, dude, what do I do? Like, I'm good at this. And like, it's a scary place. Yeah.
That's what he had brought up when they were making like the little transition, what they were thinking about. And he's like, what do you think about this? I'm like, dude, honestly, I think it's true, because I think they've got something called BATS that was in the minor leagues that they'd end up helping you out for a little bit, but there's nothing really out there as we've looked that helps you figure out who you are after. And that's, I think, the biggest thing is you're not having those people tagging you in posts anymore. You're not having the interviews. You're not going out and people asking, hey, what's up with the team? Because there is no team. It's these small little things that you kind of prepare for, but you don't know until it actually hits you. And then once you get hit, it's like, whoa, like, and sometimes you can't handle it how you would in the sports world, because you're not in the sports world anymore. So I thought it was a tremendous idea on their part.
And so one of the things that helped me too, and it's just like the biochemistry of the brain, right? All those things that you just described are adrenaline and dopamine, right? All those things, when you get tagged in posts, your brain's like, ooh, that's good. I did good, right? A little spike, it feels good. So you got to figure out how to replace that dopamine now, and just be like, okay, I can rechannel this into this. And when this happens, that's a really good thing. That's now, and you're retraining your reward system. But was my biggest challenge, was exactly that validation, that connection to sport, that identity of like, oh, that's Anthony Ranaudo, the baseball player. No, I'm not the baseball player anymore, motherfucker. And guess what? you're going to be a non-baseball player way longer than you were a baseball player. So you
Yeah.
better figure out that identity. And that's
Yeah.
that hard part.
Cole's transition's easy because we just make him famous now. But
It's so funny.
that's what we're going to now, which is super fun because like we have to build this entire content strategy, and it's all around like Cole's got a pretty decent following, and so leveraging that at least for the first year and a half, 2 years of the brand, and then driving that traffic to the brand is going to be the best way to go, and then slowly transition that to actually posting just on the brand.
Yep.
But on the foundation side, like we'll actually be leaking a lot of the content that we're putting out for these kids through Cole socials on YouTube channels and stuff like that. We're going to do a lot of like day in the lives, just because like Cole said, he's going through this process for the first time. One thing that I'm super excited about with this is instead of someone like Taylor talking down to these kids because he's up there, he's already done it, and he's like, hey, these are the things you need to learn. This is the first time Cole's studying these things. Yeah. Like Cole's learned all these foundational things through sports and through coaches. Like we said, that's why he's here. But he's never studied this stuff like he's studying now because we're developing curriculum. So he's going through for the first time. So there's this layer of like authenticity of him walking with these kids, which is really cool. So we can highlight that and the day in the life stuff where we're just like showing them the workouts we're doing and how we train, how we eat, just like a really holistic viewpoint of what a successful life looks like in all these different buckets. Like one thing we talk a lot about is people think success is just money, and money's one of 6 of the buckets. Right. You know, you have emotional resilience, you have spiritual growth, you have your mindset, you have family and relationships, you have all these things that you want to make daily deposits in, and we want to get that out in content through Cole because he lives that. You know?
Daily deposits, I like that. And then one other thing that I think would hit home for you too, and like something even just for myself, and I know other people would really be attracted to that or follow that. And you guys are trying to grow and rebrand and get new followers, right? A new demographic. But I would challenge you guys to think of the people that already follow you and why they followed you, right? Yeah. Most of those people were around your age, maybe younger, looking up to you, right? And you're going through something right now. I think being human about that and connecting with them and sharing that with them, I guarantee you more people are going through that shit than they know, and that is going to be really powerful. And I think it motivates people in a way, and that's what your brand is all about. So I think just even if you clip things, or as Joe, clip things where you're like, yeah, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Like, I know you didn't curse. I'm on the cursor, but like, what now, right? Like that kind of stuff people want to know, because you know what? The college kid that just graduated, he might not have played college baseball, but he's like, what now? What job am I taking? And he might be able to relate to Cole Freeman. I looked up to that guy and he's struggling the same way, or confused, or curious the same way, right? And you're going to connect with people, and next time you put out a t-shirt, he's going to be like, fuck yeah, I'm going to support him. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's how you're going to connect and follow and be authentic and be vulnerable, because their success is definitely going to come, and all those things are going to be great, but being real on the journey along the way, I think would really help you out too. Like,
we're going to do this build in public type deal with the brand.
Have you heard built in public before?
So we're going to build the entire clothing brand and all that in public, meaning we're going to get feedback. We're going to tell y'all what we're struggling with, what went great. We're going to have everybody involved in it. So like you just said, that they can see, like I might get on there and just be like, I'm completely lost. I don't know what the hell is going on. I've got to figure it out. Like type stuff. But like you said, on social media, it's all, this good, this good, this good. It's like, bro, there ain't nobody that good all the time ever. Like, so we want to give that, hey, I'm struggling type thing. Hey, it took 2 days. We got out the mud. We're moving again. So
one of my biggest posts that I posted about a year and a half ago, I posted a picture. It was like a headshot, and I was smiling, and I was like, hey, this is a picture, and I'm smiling, and most of you guys are scrolling through here, and you're probably gonna like it or not, and just think, oh, Anthony posted another picture. But if you read the caption, you're gonna find out some real shit right now. And like, I went in and I was like, I'm smiling here, but I'm letting you guys know I'm stressing. I'm running a business. I'm struggling. Like, not like cry for me, I'm so depressed. It was just like, I want to let you know,
real life.
This is my life. I'm smiling and I'm putting this on social media, but here's where I'm at. I can't tell you how many people personally texted me. Was like, dude, that post, unbelievable. I feel that so much, and it's just like, and it big people too, where you're like, oh, that this is actually a crowd you want to connect right now because you're struggling too, and it's like, oh wow, okay, and then I don't feel so bad either, right? Like I'm not alone. They're not alone. It's interesting, and it's like everybody puts their smiles and their thumbs up on Instagram, but it's like sometimes when you put that shit out there, it's like. Me too, and that's it. Because everybody has that stuff,
I think that's authenticity people crave because it's so sparing that we see it. Like, it's so rare. And it's like, that energy that comes across when you're authentic, when you're truly authentic, is really important. That's why we like this built in public concept came out in the tech world. A lot of these early stage startups were launching their tech brands on Twitter. So they'd actually like put like open source code, and they'd like have conversations about what's going on, where they're at in the process, their fundraising, they're being really transparent about it. And then a couple like influencers have played around with it in the supplement world, where they're launching their supplement brand, like as they're starting on their platform, exactly, showing the whole process of bringing the formulation together. And so I think it'll be really fun to do that, because we're all kind of doing it for the first time, right? We get to show Cole like, hey, anybody can start a brand. We'll show you how to do it. Like, just do it with us.
I think one of the things we want people to realize, especially when we're trying to get this curriculum and stuff out there, is we don't want people to teach as in, hey, I'm superior to you and I'm telling you how to do it.
Right.
We want to teach them as, you've already got it in you. Let me just show you how to find it.
Love it.
And that switch in the way a kid would perceive you is going to be totally different. Like, nobody wants to be lectured.
Nope.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. You figured it out. Like, it's easy for you.
Right.
It's not for me. Like, my motivation is shot. But, hey, look, this is how I figured it out. And one example I always give, when I'm teaching somebody, something, especially baseball or something like that, dude, I struggled with this for 6 months. And even if I didn't, I'd say I did longer.
Exactly.
Like, hey,
you put the wall down.
Right. Like, bro, you're going to struggle. It's okay. I don't care where this goes. Let's just get this down, and then we'll move to the next. And I think if you can just teach a kid that way, they're going to open up to you. They're going to tell you actually what they're struggling with. They're going to tell you what they don't, instead of, oh, I don't want to ask that question because they might get mad again.
Exactly.
You're not helping anybody.
I like saying get on the same side of the table as them.
Yeah.
I like that.
Get up, walk around, go sit right next to them. Yeah. Just a different posture.
Exactly. Yeah. I love it. Well, first drop in August, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What else? You guys, I'm going to let you guys get out of here in a few minutes, but what else you guys want to leave our listeners with? Anything else you guys want to talk about?
I want to tell the story real quick because it's funny. It's really short. But one thing we left out at the Taylor meeting, we're sitting down and we've probably been in the conversation for quite a while.
Are you about to say Jeff?
Yeah. So he's talking about the
he's trying to
Jeff,
hype up Jeff.
The Jeff Marks,
the man,
the Jeff Marks conversation, and he's like, Cole's like, yeah, I think he won like a Pulitzer prize. He's like a Pulitzer prize, and we're all like Pulitzer prize, and Taylor looks at him and goes, "This is our guy." Like, so good.
That's incredible.
I was trying to hype up my boy. Like, dude, he's the real deal. Like, and I couldn't think of the name. I'm like, so it. And obviously, a ton of books on the wall, so they knew what was going on. And so
Pulitzer Prize winner.
A fun one to leave with, but I think we're super excited. Obviously, thank you for having us, dude. This has been such
this could have been a 3-hour conversation. I know he probably has 8 billion questions for you guys too.
Sick.
I know him, and I'm like, I could have talked to you guys for 3 hours today. This was really awesome.
And because we're like the timelines we're setting are pretty, I would say, audacious. We can always come back and have conversations on where we're at, because we're gonna try to move through this pretty fast. But
I think we're gonna order our samples this week too, so
awesome.
We'll have some stuff.
And just follow along on Cole's socials, because we'll keep you guys in the loop with everything. Cold drink. That was another thing, bro. We were like, with the foundation, I'm like, bro, cold drink doesn't really. I'm like, cold drink doesn't really work, dude. Like, so when we walked out of Taylor's house, he's like, I could stay cold drink.
Dude, so I had that happen one time when I was at LSU my junior year. I'm in class, and Andy Canizero texted me. He said, "Hey, bro, Coach Maneri figured out your nickname." And I'm like, I start laughing. I'm like, oh, he goes, no, like, he thinks you're an alcoholic because it's cold drink. And I was like, and I got really mad because I'm like, I haven't even earned my spot yet. Like, he thinks I'm an alcoholic. So I went to the field. I had to go to the field, and he called me in for a meeting. And so I have a meeting with him. He's like, so are you struggling with something? Like, what's up with your nickname?
Incredible.
And I'm like, no, like, I'm not an alcoholic, coach. My parents called my sister, her name's Casey, case of beer, and me cold drink. And then when everything came out as handles for Twitter and Instagram, I just put it in and it stuck. I'm like, this dude thinks I'm an alcoholic. And then they call me, and I'm like, hey, I don't know if we're going to be able to keep the nickname. And I'm like, bro, the nickname's not going anywhere. Like, I promise you, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, that's
So,
incredible. I love it.
So cold
That's
drinks here to
awesome. Cold
stay.
drinks here
Yeah.
to stay.
Heart has no limit coming soon.
I love it, man. I'm really happy I got to understand the story in depth a lot more and got a chance to meet you. And when you guys get closer to the drop, please let me know. I'd love to have you guys on. And if you guys want to use the shop, please,
Sweet.
I would love to help you guys any way you can. If you guys want to do a
Amazing.
pop-up, select 10, however many items, or something,
Yeah.
and make it a cool event. Have some drinks at the shop, center it around a game in the spring, or
Sick.
I guess August would be baseball. I guess we could do something. But anyway, we'll figure something out. Yeah, it would be really fun. So would love to
no
help out.
doubt. I appreciate it, man.
Thanks, bro.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.